Okay, welcome to the Week 9 update. Just real quick before I get started, I want to point out that the trade deadline's coming up in Week 11. I know you all get really excited for trades in the league, so I wanted to point that out to get you all ready to go for that. Last week I kind of pointed out, some scary things for each team, and this week I wanted to kind of do some optimistic things for each team. And I just kind of wanted to point out, as you know, we switched up our playoff last year, where the top two teams in each division make it to the playoffs, and then the fifth spot is by the team regardless of record that has the most points. And just looking at it here, there's only 117 points separating the fifth place team from the 10th place team. So really, still everybody is, well, regardless of your record, still well within striking distance of a playoff spot. So with that said, we'll go to the whip around and talk about reasons for optimism for everybody. And we'll start where we have the past for a while now, at Men in Tight Pants at 1,290 points and still in the driver's seat in the points race. Big reason for optimism for them headed down the stretch. It seems like Dak Prescott and the Cowboys have the offense kind of figured out and a favorable schedule coming up. So he's just been on fire lately. And you pair him with CMC and ETN, and you've got a big three there. And then also you've got David Montgomery coming back from injury. So kind of right there at the top of the roster, you got four strong pillars to head down the stretch with. So looking good for Men in Tight Pants. Then we'll head over to Hemp Hogs in at 1,268 points. Big reason for optimism for Hemp Hogs. In at 7-2, they've got a 4-game lead on the third place team with 5 to play. So, looking pretty solid there to finish in that top 2 spot in the division and get that automatic playoff spot. But also, I know I talked a little bit the last couple of weeks about Olave not seeming to be on the same page with David Carr. And it seemed like they kind of clicked. Granted, it was against the Bears, but they kind of clicked this past week. And then also Ramondre Stevenson seems like, 2 out of the past 3 weeks at least, he's looked like his old self too. So some good reasons for optimism for Hemp Hogs there. Then we'll head over to the other division leader, Fargan Iceholes, in at 1,213 points. Big reasons for optimism for them is really what's carried them all year is Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Really for the past 3-4 years has been one of the better quarterback wide receiver duo in fantasy, and this year is no different. And in fact, this year might be their best year yet. It seems like Allen's been in that 25 to 30 range every week, and Diggs has been right there in that 20 plus range as well. So that's really been carrying them. And then also it seems like Mark Andrews, after last year was kind of a weird year for him, and a couple injuries or whatever, but it seems like he's having a real consistent year, and right there step for step with Kelsey for number 1 tight end. So looking good for Fargan Iceholes there. And then at the 4th place in the points race, we actually have there's less than 3 points separate these next 3 teams. You got Ingrown Hares, Rosso Dogs, and White Bronco. And actually between Ingrown Hares and Rosso Dogs, it's a 1/10 of a point that's separating those 2 teams. But in at 4th is Ingrown Hares with 1,180.18. And reasons for optimism for them would be obviously getting that CeeDee Lamb. Finally got that. Looks like you've got that number one receiver that you can count on each week. He's just been on fire lately. And like I was talking with Prescott, it seems like the Cowboys have kind of figured out what they want to do on offense at just the right time. And then also Gibbs, it's hard to say what's going to happen when Montgomery comes back from injury, but it seems like he's kind of found his role in the Lions offense, which is a positive sign. And then, I thought Kincaid would be the answer out of the gate. Turned out he wasn't. I actually dropped him for a while, but looks like lately he might be that answer looking for at tight end too. So three good reasons for optimism for ingrown hairs there. And then we'll head over to Rasa Dogs in at 1180.08. Big, kind of, it's been not a roller coaster of a season for Rasa Dogs, but in at 5-4, and just kind of chugging along and been right there in the points race all year and everything. Like a big reason, obviously, Mahomes, hasn't had his greatest year to date, but always around that 20-point mark, and a solid guy to build around. And then obviously Tyreek Hill has been almost unstoppable. Seems like he's getting better with age, and whatever they're doing in the Miami offense, it just seems to work all the time. And then another big reason for optimism for the Rasa Dogs would be Debo, just in time coming back from injury with Hill going on bye. So if he comes back, Hill and Debo can be a nice 1-2 punch there, wide receiver. And that'll take us to the White Bronco in at 1,178 points. Still at second place in the division. Their big reason for optimism is kind of, again, what got them here. A.J. Brown's having, one of the better wide receiver years ever for a wide receiver. Just it's either 125 yards or a couple of touchdowns every single week, it seems like. Always right around that 20, 25 points. Just really, having that in your lineup every week is hard to beat. And then kind of somebody that I kind of was down on a couple weeks ago, but Jackson Smith-Njigba all of a sudden seems like he's almost kind of taken over that wide receiver room in Seattle. So, and he's put together a couple, not huge weeks, but the targets are up, the runs are up, and I think that's a good sign for him. And then also Marquise Brown kind of been lingering down there in the flex spot for White Bronco, and he's getting Kyler Murray back, so at quarterback, so that could be a nice shot in the arm for White Bronco there, kind of out of an unexpected spot, really. And then we'll head over to Houday 14 in at 1,132 points. Obviously, we all know the big reason for optimism here is Burrow. Knock on wood, seems like he's healthy over the early season injury woe, and kind of he's bringing Higgins. Higgins also seems like he kind of got over whatever was up his ass earlier in the year too, with a couple good weeks in a row. So those two, kind of probably, I'm sure Kevin was counting on them from the beginning and got off to horrible starts, but maybe they can turn it around at the right time. And also Aaron Jones looks like maybe he kind of got over, he had the big week one, and then he pulled his hamstring late in that game and just almost fell off the map since then, but kind of looked like he got back into the flow of things this past week. So that'd be good for Houday 23 heading down the stretch. So then we'll go to Your Mama in at 1,092 points. And the big thing for them, I kind of texted out Sunday. I thought the Raiders would be cooked with, just they've seen in disarray. Their offense looked like garbage. Fire their coaching staff. They're playing the Giants. His defense had looked really good lately, and here come then they have their best offensive output of the year. So shows what I know. But and it was led by Jacob. So if he's got that shot of whatever into him down the stretch, that'll be a big boost for Your Mama. And then And then also another thing with them is Garrett Wilson. Kind of everybody, or at least not wrote him off, but just lowered expectations once Rodgers went down the first game. But seems like lately he's kind of settled into the kind of 15, at least double-digit point range. He's not having the huge games, but a solid number two wide receiver. And then obviously uh, Jefferson, at least timetable wise, could be back in the next couple weeks. So which would obviously help anybody's team coming down the stretch. And that'll take us over to TD Twisters in at 1,064 points. Been kind of a rough ride for TD Twisters. John and I at dinner Sunday, and we're at halftime of the 4 o'clock games, and he's kicking the crap out of me by like 50 points, and get home that night, the 4 o'clock games are over, and all of a sudden I'm up by 15 or 20 points. It's like, how in the hell did that happen? But it seems like that's been kind of happening to John a lot. He's been on one under the other of that a lot lately. But reasons for optimism for him, and I've been saying it for weeks now, but it really does finally look like Taylor is healthy, in shape, and taking over that running game in Indy. And that's obviously going to be the key cog for John to make any kind of a playoff push here. Along with the guy I gave up on almost as quickly as I picked him up, but Taysom Hill, I bit on that first 20-point week, and then I picked him up and I didn't start him. He scored 20 points again, and then I dropped him because whatever. And then John picks him, he scores 20 points again. So three straight weeks of 20 points out of a tight end. If you even get half that production the rest of the way, you've got a solid answer at tight end. And then of course, Amon-Ra, Ridley. It's a solid. It's a good roster. Just for one reason or other, hasn't gone John's way this year. But again, could put together a run here and get back in it with the points. Same with Blue Blobs, just a point behind at 1,063. And their big reason for optimism, the guy that led them to their biggest point total of the year this past week with C.J. Stroud. If he, obviously we don't want him to do it this week, but if he can, keep up his great, obviously clearly the front runner for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, if he keeps that up, and then Eckler, he's 220 plus point weeks in a row. So there you go. You start getting those guys going and get on a run, and you start climbing that points race ladder. And then also Amari Cooper seems to click with Watson, who finally came back from injury this week too. So you get Cooper and Eckler and Stroud going, and maybe whip off some a couple 140, 150 point games, and you're right back in it. But you never know. That's why we play it till the end, I guess. For the game of the week this week, we'll actually go to our lowest scoring game. Your Mama and Rasa Dogs. Kind of all day Sunday. It was, I don't follow it. I'm mostly just looking at my teams on Sunday, but I'll take a glance at the scoreboard every once in a while. And I kind of noticed that was that game. It was like, everybody else is crossing the 100-point mark, and those guys are just kind of lingering down there around 50, 60, 70. Mahomes had a decent game. Jacobs had a decent game, but nobody was really, nobody pushing the point total up. Just kind of back and forth, a lot of single digit scores and stuff like that. And what it all came down to was it was a virtual tie going into Monday night, and Kevin had Garrett Wilson going, and RB had Breece Hall going, and that's what it came down to was, Wilson won by 5 points, and that was pretty much your margin of victory there. So Your Mama picks up a big win, stay within striking distance of second place in the division there. And, sometimes you got to win ugly, and that's what happened. But that's pretty much all I got for this week. Like I said, trade deadline coming up, so hopefully everybody's gearing up for that. And good luck going forward, everybody.